The judge says Castro has extreme narcissism.
I was victim of sex acts.
It's a character flaw, not an illness that he has.
Right.
I drove the school bus for 21 years. I did a very good job. This job is too stressful and coming home to my situation.
He's not psychiatrically ill.
Well,
this is how his brain works.
They're trying to say that I'm a violent person. I'm not a violent person.
He is continuing to attack his victims. He is continuing to abuse them.
I knew I was going to get pretty much the book thrown at me. True judgment day is when God comes and judges me.
Oh, man, he's got that right. Welcome back. It's time for the Behavior Bureau. My co-host, Samantha Shocker. We are talking about the suicide of kidnapper Ariel Castro. Joining us on the panel, criminologist Casey Jordan, host of Wives with Knives on Investigation Discovery, psychologist Judy Ho, psychotherapist Wendy Walsh, author of 30-Day Love Detox, and Deneen Manette, criminal investigator and author of Ultimate Betrayal. Casey, does this suicide, well, I sort of have two questions. Does the suicide tell us something about him? I guess I have three questions. A, you said it's a character problem. B, is it about power and control like Brian suggested in that last segment? And C, what does it say about us that we feel okay about it?
All right. Is it a character flaw? Yes, I would argue it's more of the same. It's all about power and control, to answer your second question. It was a choice. It wasn't an accident. I don't know how long he was thinking about it, but I find it so interesting that only a month after his exhibit of distorted thinking, I think, Dr. Drew, reality started setting in. He went from, I'm going to fight for custody and visitation rights with my biological daughter, which was unbelievable that he would say that in court, to hanging himself from the neck. I think reality hit him squarely in the face. And we don't feel bad about it because, honestly, I think the victims can heal better now that he is not walking the face of this earth.
I agree with you.
Not in prison.
I agree with you. People were asking me, Judy, I wonder if you agree with that as well. People were asking, well, what are the girls experiencing? I don't think the girls are experiencing anything except a few.
I disagree.
I disagree. Go ahead. Is that Wendy? Go ahead.
Yes, I absolutely disagree, Dr. Drew.
Ahead,
and I'm going to say something really unpopular here tonight. I think some of your guests are showing no empathy, no compassion. Yes, this guy's a monster. He may have been abused as a child himself, but he's a human being. He lost his life. We are not a lynch mob. We should not be cheering for this. It is sad all the way around for the victims and everybody. And I'll tell you what I think the victims are feeling, Dr. Drew. Complete confusion. Because remember, this man who entrapped them and tortured them for 10 years was also their lifeline, and they were young enough to have formed some kind of attachment to him. It doesn't mean it's traditional love by any means, but there was an intimacy, and they are going to have very confusing feelings of loss as they're also cheering. So we shouldn't be cheering for anybody here because this is hard on all.
Deneen, you look confused.
Yeah, you know, I'm sorry. I can't sign on to that. I cannot get on the side of feeling sympathy for a child molester or a murderer or a rapist, whatever he is. I have no sympathy for him whatsoever. The only person I feel sorry for in this situation is the little girl, because she lost her father, and to her, he was just a normal human being.
That's right.
Everybody else, you know, to everyone else, he was a monster. We know what he was all about. I have no sympathy for him. He's a loser, and goodbye.
Judy,
I have sympathy for the whole family, the generations of family.
Okay, I get you. There's a lot of people suffering because of this guy. But Judy, Deneen brings up something very important, is that 6-year-old, the biological father is going to be important to that 6-year-old no matter what. This suicide will have meaning to her way later. Yeah.
Absolutely. And, you know, now that he's gone, both his daughter and these 3 women that he victimized, they will have no chances to really get answers. And I actually think that that is an impact that will be seen in the years to come, is, you know, where do they get the answers for why this happened? You know, and now that he's gone, it's going to be hard to do that. But I agree that he has narcissistic tendencies. He has been externalizing blame, blaming his own childhood, becoming a victim of his own upbringing this entire time. And the remorse is not really what you would expect of somebody who really understands the repercussions of what he did.
Well, Dr. Drew.
Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I thought, okay, earlier I read a statistic in one of the articles that was presented to us that prison inmates die from suicide 3 times more than homicide in prison.
Duh.
So I did not know it was that common.
Yeah, in the institutional setting, despite it being observed very carefully, people can kill themselves in very efficient and very quick ways.
So is it all that shocking?
It's a depressing environment.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially in
It's a very
solitary
depressing
confinement.
environment.
That's
Much-
right.
Well, don't go.
And so, Deneen,
Don't go to
Deneen,
prison.
Thank you for that, Deneen.
Yeah, I mean,
Don't
just
go
stay
to
out of
prison.
prison and you don't
I
have
hear
that
you.
problem. We spend so much time coddling and feeling sorry for and trying to understand. Some people are just bad. They make bad choices. They do bad things, and they go to prison. Goodbye.
But-
It's just
but-
the way
And
that it is.
he couldn't
That's
deal
such
with something
simple
that
thinking.
he.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
that is such simple thinking.
Hold on,
it
Wendy.
takes
Well,
many
it is what it
generations
is.
to create a monster, many generations of biology
yeah, but we
and
can't
family
undo.
systems.
Hold on, Wendy.
can't
I get
undo
your,
that.
I get your. Well,
We
yeah.
can't undo that. We
Go-
can't deal with the past. So we have to deal with the behavior and the present. And in the behavioral present, he's a monster, and we've got to deal with that.
Casey.
We can't undo what happened to him as a child. Can't do it.
Casey, I want to go to you.
Yes.
I think this is. I hope people get the nuance of this conversation, because Wendy is saying Castro was we would have been crying for him as the young child victim when he was 5-year-old being sexually abused.
Yeah.
He becomes a perpetrator. There's a relationship between that victimization and his becoming a perpetrator. How do we reconcile this? Wendy has sympathy for that. I don't think many people do. I don't. But how do we reconcile this?
Well, Wendy revealed her conflict in calling him a monster, but then saying he was a human being. It is possible that he was both. The bottom line is you have 3 girls who were captives in that house, including the young daughter, the 6-year-old. I don't think there's one blanket answer. I think each one of them is going to deal with it in her individual way, and each one of them will give her self-closure. I don't think they were ever going to get answers from that man, and I think his mere existence would keep them conflicted for the rest of his life. So I think they're going to find tremendous peace. They can let it go. They can find their own healing. I think his death actually provides that. And I don't think any of us are joyous. We're just happy for that
Well, but
level of
Wendy
closure.
accused us of being a lynch mob. And
Well,
no.
the guests in your last segment sure were.
Yes, I think you're right. I think it is an expression of a primitive impulse for human sacrifice, and that's maybe, I don't want to speculate, but I think we do feel some very primitive gratification from this. I'm not proud of it. I'm in it. I
What
feel
if it was your daughter? What if it was your daughter, Wendy? How would you feel?
I would feel sad for all concerned. I'm an equal opportunity sympathy giver.
Wendy, you're
Dr.
better.
Drew-
Wendy's a better human than the rest of us. That's all I'm saying.
Dr. Drew, do you think that's interesting that he couldn't put up with the things that he subjected these
I
girls
think
to for
it's
over 10 years?
Absolutely fascinating, isn't
But
it?
see,
And
Dr.
I think though
when
the girls,
understandable.
the girls, I think will actually be angry with that, because they're robbed of the ability of what they intended, which is to see him rot in prison.
Right.
Deneen,
Exactly.
I want you to take me out.
This is
with,
worse.
Hang on. Well, I don't know. Deneen, I want you to take me out again with the "Don't go there." I love that. It's everybody.
You know,
Let's
I mean,
stay in
it's
the
just-
present. Don't go there.
Exactly. We spend a lot of time talking about these bad childhoods and all that, and I get that, and it's a sad thing. Let's get the violin. None of us got all 52 cards, granted, but we've got to deal with the behavior in the present, and we cannot stop. We've got to stop coddling these people and giving them all of these excuses. We've got
But
to not
dealing with the
reward bad behavior.
we have decided as a civilized society that the way that we will deal with this behavior is stop the cycle of family violence by putting one in jail and protecting society from him. We shouldn't cheer when he becomes human and commits suicide.
Listen, I love
It's
this.
not cheering,
You
but
guys,
right now
We're
we're
not
just
cheering.
closer to being able to close this out, and I'm glad we're closer to
We're
being able to
satisfied.
Listen,
forget
I've
about
got to
this and
close
move
this
forward.
conversation now. Right now, I got to get to break. But huzzah to all of you for tackling some very difficult stuff, and Wendy to taking a very unpopular position. Next up.